Welcome. This is the Human Resource. My name's Pandy Pridemore, and you're listening to us from the station ICRC-TV in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've got a question for all of you, and this is to business owners as well as HR representatives. Do you really know how much HR knowledge there is in the company? And I mean that very specifically. If you're a business owner, do you really have a strong understanding of what the knowledge and expertise level of human resources and employment laws are being practiced? And I say this because the more and more I talk to individuals, and this is not critical, this is not personal. It's really, really not. But I'm talking to HR people who just have not kept up or have a true understanding, a good set of optics on what their strengths and their weaknesses are. There are personality tests, absolutely. And think about how many organizational assessments there are to determine how do you build a team and what personalities are needed and who works better with whom and how do we talk to each other and work together as a team. But how many of you have actually either applied an assessment on your HR person? Or if you're an HR person, how many of you have actually taken an assessment to find out where your strengths and weaknesses are in terms of your knowledge? Now, I'm not, again, I don't want you to get confused here. I'm not asking you if your strengths are in safety or whether you're an organizational development person or if you spend most of your time in employee relations. What I'm asking you is if you do spend most of your time in employee relations, how well versed are you on wage and hour? If you spend most of your time in organizational development, how well versed are you on Title VII? And this is an extremely valid question. And I want you to think really hard about this. Again, I'm not trying to get personal in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, I am going to challenge you from a professional perspective. Are you the best you can be if you're the HR person? And how many of you business owners are actually just going with the flow because that person's been in the role for 15, 20 years, and you think, well, heck, they seem like a great HR person. They've got to be the best. When in fact, they really haven't sharpened the skills that they should have. Well, here are 5 good reasons why you really need to be thinking about an HR assessment. And the one is just to find out where you are. There are so many different organizations that an HR representative has to be aware of. When I started 40 years ago, we were taking paper applications. We were working with a typewriter. We were still using the word personnel. We addressed each other as Mr. and Mrs. It was a different world, and things have not slowed down since. And I'm not saying that there's a lot of you out there that started human resources when I did, but what I am saying is how many of you have actually been able to keep up with all the different things listed in the 7 disciplines of human resources? If you're good at employee relations, how much training have you received to make good recommendations on compensation? And if you don't know where you are, how do you know what courses to sign up for? How do you know what training materials you yourself, remember, train the trainer, you yourself should be investing in? And again, number 2, if you absolutely don't know what your strengths are, then how in the world can you allow yourself to get further and further behind as things continue to change? You won't be able to identify what's actually going on in the company. And this is why I'm saying identify where your strengths are. Then you'll know what to work on. And then the number 3 reason to be doing this is you'll be helping the company minimize their risks. If you're an HR person and you're not well-versed in FMLA, or you think you are, and you skip a beat, you miss a step, you actually have a violation, how do you think that's going to affect the company? That's not coming out of your pocket. That's coming out of the pocket of the company. Why would you put your company at risk like that? If you haven't been kept up to speed with the EEOC's guidelines on discrimination or the current definition of workplace violence, how in the world can you advise your management teams on when a termination is necessary? Or worse yet, if we should or should not suspend someone? You see, you hold a very, very important role in that people come to you and expect you to be an expert. They're trusting you because nobody else out there has time to keep up with all this. And that brings me to reason number 4. They believe in you and trust in you if you're in the human resource role. And business owners, I'm coming right back at you. Think about how much you rely on that person in that role of human resources and the expectations you have when you go to them and say, hey, am I allowed to do this? Or what should I be considering if we're going to, have to furlough or if we're going to have to lay off? Or, are you really confident the I-9s are in good shape? You see, it's going to come back and there's really no reason for it. This is not telling them they can't have their job. This is saying, look, if I'm going to trust you, I need your level of expertise to be at a certain level. And HR representatives, again, this is not personal, but when was the last time you felt a little shaky or you second-guessed yourself when you made a decision or made a recommendation? And, my clients call me and they'll say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, but what thoughts do you have? Or what am I missing? And we talk it through together and they learn from those conversations. Who are you calling? Who's giving you the confidence to make those decisions? And then my 5th reason is things are changing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not slowing down, and it's not going to slow down. This podcast was created years ago because we knew that you needed help, and we knew that in this difficult situation, you needed an outside source that you could pull information from, you can pull intelligence from. You could hear other people talk about going through situations. You could hear how the different laws were affecting different states or different communities or different industries, and the mistakes that some were making and the good things that others are doing. But as I have said over and over again on the show, the only constant in the universe is change. How much time does your human resource representative have to keep up with all the change? And many of you that are listening to this show, you don't have a labor law attorney on retainer. In fact, I'd say probably 90% of you don't even have a human resource consultant on retainer. So who is helping you with all your updates? And yes, I'm thrilled if you're listening to the podcast, but you might not get to my podcast at the right time, or something may change prior to me being able to get the information to you. Plausible deniability doesn't work in court. So there's 5 reasons to be thinking about doing an assessment from an HR perspective. Find out where you're at. Identify what you need. Minimize the risk and liability on the company by strengthening your weaknesses. By doing that, you'll increase your confidence. The level of your expertise will go up. And as things change, you'll be able to keep up, or at least know and have a resource by which to ask or run things by. So my thing that I'm offering today on the show is that I created an assessment probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I have used it a number of times, especially with individuals, companies that come in and say, hey, I want to hire this person. They say they can do this, but how do I know if it's true? How do I know that when they say they can handle ADA cases, how do I know that they're not going to slip up? And everybody makes mistakes. That's not what we're saying here. But what, as employers, the business owners, you guys want to know that if you put somebody in that position, they're who they say they are. And my assessment actually, and again, with the attorneys that I work with, we pulled this together. It will give you a better snapshot. And HR representatives, if you want to reach out to us and take this assessment and not tell anyone, that's great. That's fine. I will applaud your humility in wanting to learn where you are and understand how to grow in your career of human resources. And it's very simple. We can do it virtually. It takes about 20 minutes. You get a limited time, obviously, to answer a number of questions, and then we go over it with you. We sit there and we talk about it, and we help you create a plan. It's great when I get your questions and your feedback, but it's even better when I can talk with one of you and actually help watch you grow in your career and watch you strengthen what you already know, but also learn new skills and expertise. HR assessment. I want you to think really hard about this. Again, I don't care whether you're a business owner. I don't care if you're the HR rep. If you'd like to participate in our assessment, contact me. And that's here at the station. Look me up on LinkedIn or get a hold of me at ppridemore@thehumanresourceusa.com. But again, this is all in your best interest. Let us help you. Keep sending in your comments because we're listening right here at The Human Resource.